Yeah, I kind of did. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
You'll forgive me, though.
Right, of course I will.
I'll move on now with me. Reese Witherspoon was there.
Title before her final goodbye. Diane Keaton's last message to her fans. She taught us how to wear confidence like a suit and how to find humor in heartbreak. She made imperfection elegant and aging fearless. For over 5 decades, Diane Keaton has lived her life in front of the camera, but never for it. Now, as whispers of her farewell drift through Hollywood, she leaves behind something far deeper than a filmography, a philosophy. Diane Keaton was born in 1946 in Los Angeles, the city that would one day spell her destiny. Yet the road between Diane Hall, her birth name, and the Diane Keaton the world knows was never smooth, nor was it expected. As a young woman, she was shy, nervous, and at times paralyzed by stage fright. She loved performing, but the thought of being watched, of being seen, frightened her. Still, there was something inside her, a quiet rebellion, a spark of curiosity that refused to yield. She enrolled in acting classes and joined the famed neighborhood playhouse in New York, studying under Sanford Meisner. It was there that her awkwardness transformed into authenticity. Where other actors chased glamour, Diane found power in imperfection. She turned quirks into charm, hesitation into rhythm, and silence into its own kind of dialogue. The actress who once trembled before audiences would soon outshine every 1970s screen rebel she shared the stage with. Her first big break,
Oh, God, Annie. Well, oh, well. La-di-da, la-di-da, la-la. Yeah.
came not through flashy auditions or studio manipulation, but through honesty. Francis Ford Coppola cast her as Kay Adams in The Godfather, 1972, a role that demanded subtlety, restraint, and emotional truth. The film made her a household name, but it was Annie Hall, 1977, that transformed her into a cultural revolution. In Annie Hall, Woody Allen didn't just direct Diane Keaton, he revealed her. The film mirrored her own contradictions, eccentric yet grounded, nervous yet magnetic, awkward yet deeply human. The character's name itself, Annie Hall, was borrowed from Keaton's real surname. She wore her own clothes, spoke her own rhythms, and turned the film into a reflection of herself. The world fell in love not just with Annie, but with Diane, the woman who made clumsiness elegant and sincerity fashionable. Her oversized men's blazers, bowler hats, and unfiltered honesty became her trademarks. Hollywood had never seen anything like her. A heroine who didn't hide her humor or her doubts, who could be beautiful and offbeat in the same frame. She was the face of a new kind of feminism, one that didn't need to announce itself because it was simply lived. Diane Keaton's career flourished, but her personal philosophy remained defiantly un-Hollywood. While her peers chased roles, power, and marriages, she cultivated privacy. She was famously linked to several legends: Woody Allen, Al Pacino, Warren Beatty, yet never married. When asked why, she'd laugh. "I just didn't find the time between all those neuroses." Her humor became her armor. Interviews with Diane were never predictable. One moment heartfelt, the next absurd. She could turn a press junket into stand-up comedy, poking fun at herself, her age, or the absurdity of celebrity culture. Yet beneath the wit lay something deeper, an awareness that fame is fleeting, and that identity must come from within. In an era obsessed with glamour, Keaton remained defiantly real. She didn't disguise her insecurities, she embraced them. She spoke candidly about her stage fright, her awkwardness, and her introversion. And in doing so, she gave permission for others, especially women, to be imperfect. Her performances in Manhattan, Reds, Baby Boom, and Something's Gotta Give revealed the same truth. Diane Keaton's characters were never just roles. They were extensions of herself, curious, messy, emotional, and resilient. Even as she aged, she refused to soften her edges or retreat from the screen's harsh gaze. Instead, she reframed aging itself as a creative act. Where others saw decline, Keaton saw liberation. She became a model of how to age without apology. Her silver hair, her signature turtlenecks, and her endless curiosity serving as symbols of authenticity rather than retreat. In late 2023, while promoting Book Club, The Next Chapter, a journalist asked her a question she had heard countless times before. What's next for Diane Keaton? But this time, her answer felt different. Maybe, she said with a sly smile. The next role's called Retirement. With no script and better lighting, the room laughed, as they always did when she delivered her signature self-deprecating wit. But beneath the laughter, there was a pause, a quiet one. It sounded like a door slowly closing. A few weeks later, Keaton posted a photo on Instagram, a sunrise spreading gold light over her ranch in California. The caption was simple, "Time to marvel at ordinary things." The reaction was immediate. Fans flooded the comments. Was she saying goodbye? Was this her curtain call? Social media lit up with worry and nostalgia. Search engines recorded spikes in phrases like Diane Keaton last interview, Diane Keaton goodbye post, and Diane Keaton retirement. It was as though people had sensed something deeper in her message. A quiet shift, not an ending, but an evolution. For someone whose life had been watched, dissected, and celebrated for over 50 years. The idea of choosing stillness felt both poetic and profound. Weeks later, Diane appeared on CBS This Morning, radiating the same mixture of playfulness and poise that had defined her for decades. The interviewer asked her directly, was she retiring? Her answer was both simple and seismic. "I'm not done loving this industry," she said. "Just done needing it." It was a sentence that lingered. She wasn't renouncing film. She was reclaiming freedom. For an actress who had built her life on creative rebellion, it made perfect sense. She had lived inside scripts, roles, and expectations for over half a century. Now, she wanted to live unscripted, to move from box office to backyard, from memorizing lines to writing reflections, from performing life to living it. Cultural commentators soon coined a phrase for this new phase: soft retirement. It described artists like Keaton who weren't quitting their craft, but redefining their relationship with it, choosing presence over production, connection over constant visibility. In an age where relevance often depends on relentless output, Keaton's choice felt radical. It wasn't about withdrawal, it was about peace. She began spending more time at her ranch, photographing her surroundings, posting glimpses of sunsets, trees, and her beloved dogs. Her Instagram feed turned into a quiet diary, a collage of gratitude. And through these small moments, she continued to teach, to inspire, to perform in a different way, not through film, but through mindfulness. For half a century, Diane Keaton has been more than a performer. She has been a permission slip. You see her in the laughter of Emma Stone, the vulnerability of Greta Gerwig, the wit of Sarah Jessica Parker, and the fearlessness of Frances McDormand. Every modern actress balancing humor with honesty owes something to her. Emma Stone once called her proof.
Let's turn the spotlight on you for a moment, because you just received I think is a great honor. Yes,
it was. Yes, it was.
You had all these people who
were there.
are
That weird can win. That line might as well be carved on Keaton's legacy. Diane never tried to be normal. She turned her uniqueness into art. She made vulnerability fashionable and authenticity cinematic. She blurred the lines between acting and living until they were indistinguishable. But if you ask her how she wants to be remembered, she wouldn't mention Oscars, blockbusters, or iconic roles. She once said, "I hope people remember not the performances, but the permission to stay strange, to stay grateful." That's the essence of her final message. It's not a grand farewell drenched in drama. It's a quiet hand on the shoulder, reminding us that success isn't about the stage lights, but about what kind of warmth we leave behind. Diane Keaton's goodbye is not the kind that ends in darkness. It's the kind that glows. In a world obsessed with constant reinvention, she offers something braver: stillness. She has taught generations that stepping away doesn't mean fading. It means focusing, that the applause eventually stops, but the echo of authenticity endures. She has turned her entire career into a masterclass on presence. How to stand fully in who you are, even when the world demands reinvention. Her fashion, her laughter, her voice, and her refusal to conform all point to one truth: life's greatest role is simply to be yourself. Her farewell isn't an ending, but a continuation, a movement from spotlight to sunrise. Her final message is that gratitude itself can be a form of art, to marvel at ordinary things, to appreciate time, to accept change. These are her closing lessons, delivered not through dialogue but through quiet example. When you trace the arc of her story, from a nervous young woman on the New York...
Like Meryl Streep. That's an important person.
She's important, but
Yeah.
is she not your friend, Meryl?
I love her.
Oh, but not
But I
friends.
don't know. I mean, I don't see her very often. She doesn't call.
York stage to one of cinema's most enduring icons, you see a pattern. Courage disguised as curiosity. Diane Keaton has never been afraid of awkwardness. She has worn it like a medal. In a culture that worships certainty, she celebrates confusion. In a business built on illusion, she insists on truth. That paradox between chaos and clarity has made her unforgettable. She broke into an industry that often demanded women conform, only to rewrite its rules by being herself. She gave us characters who laughed through loneliness, who chased dreams while doubting themselves, who stumbled and still shone. Through them, she showed us that humanity itself is the highest form of elegance. And now, as she steps gently away from Hollywood's constant buzz, she embodies yet another form of courage, the courage to stop performing. It's the hardest act for any artist, to silence the applause and listen to the quiet. But in that quiet, Diane Keaton has found something profound, not an ending, but a homecoming. As the camera pans over the Los Angeles skyline, the city where she was born, the city that once defined her dreams, we imagine her watching from her ranch, coffee in hand, surrounded by the peace she's earned. Somewhere between the golden hills and the familiar silhouette of palm trees, the world she once dominated continues to spin. Films premiere, awards are handed out, and new stars rise. Yet her presence lingers, not as nostalgia, but as energy. Because Diane Keaton's story was never about fame. It was about freedom. Freedom to laugh too loud, to wear what feels right, to love without labels, to age without disguise. She showed us that self-acceptance is the most radical performance of all. So before her final goodbye, or whatever quiet transition she chooses to make, she leaves us not with tears, but with a challenge to stay strange, to stay grateful. That is her real legacy. Not the trophies or the timeless films, but the way she made people feel seen. She invited us to embrace our awkwardness, to find humor in pain, to marvel at ordinary things. Her farewell, like her life, is unscripted. There's no dramatic curtain drop, no final bow, just a sunrise, the same one she once shared on Instagram, spreading light across a landscape that still remembers her laughter. As her fans revisit her films, quote her lines and imitate her style, they realize what Diane Keaton has been saying all along, that the measure of a life isn't applause, but authenticity. In every hat she wears, in every line she's ever spoken, there's the same heartbeat, the courage to be unapologetically yourself. And in that sense, she hasn't left Hollywood at all. She's just taught it how to breathe. Even as Diane Keaton's presence on screen becomes less frequent, her spirit continues to ripple across the creative world. You can sense it in the way new filmmakers write characters, those who fumble through conversations, laugh at their own awkwardness, or refuse to let age or expectation define them. It's as though every generation borrows a little of her courage, mixing it quietly into the DNA of modern storytelling. Her friends and collaborators often describe her as a collector of life, not in the sense of gathering possessions, but of moments. The way light hits a window at dusk, the comfort of a worn jacket, the strange beauty of silence between two people who understand each other. These are the details she's always chased, both in her art and in her living, away from the film sets. Diane spends her days surrounded by the tangible remains of a life well lived. Stacks of photo albums, old Polaroids, sketches, journals, and architectural clippings. Her home, much like her personality, is a collage of stories. Every object carries a fragment of memory, and together they create a museum of gratitude. She has spoken often about photography being her second language. Through her lens, she captures what the eye overlooks: crooked shadows, imperfect faces, the unremarkable corners of life that somehow feel extraordinary. It's fitting, really. After a lifetime of being seen, she's chosen to become the observer. there's a quiet poetry in that. In Hollywood, fame is usually measured by visibility, red carpets, premieres, press tours. Diane Keaton has inverted that equation. Her power now lies in absence, in the space she leaves, the silence she embraces. It's as though she's teaching us the final lesson that all artists must learn: how to let go with grace. As the sun sets on her era of cinematic performances, it rises on something far more personal, a life defined not by roles or accolades, but by awareness. She's shown us that fulfillment isn't in being everywhere, but in being present. And so, if this is indeed her farewell, it's not a goodbye wrapped in sadness. It's a gentle handoff from the bright lights of Hollywood to the warm glow of morning light spilling across her ranch. Her legacy isn't fading, it's resting, glowing quietly in the hearts of those who still find themselves inspired by her laughter, her defiance, and her extraordinary embrace of the ordinary.